The International Monetary Fund raised its forecast for the growth of the Egyptian economy during 2021, while lowering its estimates for the growth of the global economy. In the latest World Economic Outlook report issued at the fall meetings of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF expected Egyptian GDP growth in 2021 at 3.3%, up from the IMF's previous forecast of 2.5% last April. The report expected an increase in GDP growth rates in Egypt during 2022 to reach 5.2% and then 5.8% in 2026. In June, the World Bank commended the Egyptian government for adopting more reform steps during 2021 in order to address the repercussions of the pandemic. At the same time, the bank expected in its June World Economic Outlook report that the growth of the Egyptian economy would rise during 2022 and 2023, recording 4.5% and 5.5% respectively. The World Bank stated that Egypt raised the minimum wage for public sector employees as of July, extended the suspension of fees imposed on most financial transactions for an additional 6 months, starting from the beginning of 2021, and took more measures to boost lending. The World Investment Report for 2021, issued by the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, revealed that Egypt still maintains its lead in receiving foreign direct investment in the continent during the year 2020 by $5.9 billion, despite the decline caused by the corona pandemic in the volume of inward investments to the brown continent. The International Monetary Fund lowered its forecast for global economic growth to 5.9% during 2021, which is about 0.1 percentage point lower than its expectations included in the World Economic Outlook report for 2021 issued last July. This reflects a decline in the performance of the economies of developed countries, which is attributed to the disruptions they are experiencing in energy supplies, as well as the developing countries facing several economic challenges following the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, continuing our discussion with Dr. Rushdy now. Sir, to really achieve this $100 billion worth of exports, what exactly are we going to be exporting? Are we going to be exporting finalized products? Are we going to be exporting energy, electricity, or gas? Are we going to be exporting services? Are we going to be working or focusing on certain sectors? Is it the public sector, manifested in the government, or the private sector? How is this going to work, or is it a combination? And if it's a combination, what's the percentage and ratio between all of these?
I believe this is a quite smart question. I would like to drive the wheel a little bit and start from the main point or the main source for this, which is SMEs, small and medium enterprises. If you would like to build a strong economy, you have to focus on SMEs. Let me take you and our audience in a nutshell, why SMEs? For example, to simplify for you and our audience, especially, if we hypothetically we consider that the economy is consists of 2, 3, or 4 great companies or organizations. If one of them, of the 2 companies, to simplify as much as we can, there is delinquency or there is little bit they defaulted, what will happen? The half of the economy will be impacted. ABC investment, you have to diversify your portfolio. As you know, there's a great idiom, don't put all eggs in one basket.
Yes.
For that reason, I believe that the SMEs is the most important thing. Why the most important thing? First of all, to diversify the sources of income that reflect positively on the GDP structure. And I can share with you and our audience that the global rate for SMEs are accountable on 33% to 45% from economic growth globally. In addition to this, they are responsible from 60 to 70% from the employment rate. You can imagine how you could imagine that this positively reflect SMEs, reflect on to build great economies. This is in addition to a main important thing, which is part of it, the financial inclusion, which we can, by SMEs, do the most important and the most crucial thing that the government and all globally, all the citizens all globally the countries are focusing on that to decrease the unofficial economy. And we here in Egypt, around 75% from our economy is unofficial.
Yes.
You can imagine that? It's called the gray economy. And we would like to let them to be combined, to mix them. And this positively will be reflect on many things. The tax income, in addition to the mega projects, how we will finance the mega projects, the deficit of the balance of payment, we will finance from sovereigns, taxes, a lot of things. This is positively will reflect. And if we do those tiny things, this is will let our country one of the most countries that will be a role model in the MENA.
Yes.
And a lot of countries will take it as one of the experiments that happened and reflected positively. For that reason, we have to focus on SMEs. And I have to admit that the government with the Ministry of Finance, in addition to the Central Bank of Egypt, and all the government under the supervision of the presidential leadership, there is a great initiative for that. One of the most important things is the CBE, the Central Bank of Egypt, the financing, they initiated something for SMEs, providing loans for them with low interest rate actually. This is one of the most important things which will positively reflect on what the GDP growth, in addition to decrease the unemployment rate, in addition to the income, the tax income will be positively impacted. A lot of things. And there's a great countries that capitalized on this, by the way, on SMEs.
Yes.
You can imagine. For that reason, I believe one of the most important things, or the economic prescription, if you would like to say it like that, first of all, to focus on SMEs, in addition to increase export subsidies, in addition to merge unofficial economy with the official one. This will help, as I told you previously and our audience, in the financial inclusion.
Yes.
Especially we are going to the digital era.
Yes, definitely.
Now we will be cashless society. I believe one day we will reach to be a cashless society.
Yes. Well, you've mentioned the efforts exerted by the government for the SMEs, and we've seen quite recently also the Parliament working on laws to help and encourage the private sector be more involved in the infrastructure and utilities and services. You've also alluded to the Central Bank of Egypt allocating a huge sum of money, almost $200 million, if not even more, for the SMEs. But yourself being a banking expert, is the banking sector as well, the other banks, other than the Egyptian Central Bank, do they also focus on investing with the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises, giving the loans, and not just the traditional projects or national projects that we've been accustomed to for decades? Are we encouraged now, the banking sector, encouraged to give more loans to the SMEs that have actually a prospect as well of exporting their products?
Actually, the government is working simultaneously in parallel, which is the first thing to do, the mega projects, which positively will facilitate the part of SMEs. In addition, they are focusing on SMEs. The central bank initiative with coordination with the government and all ministers in the Egyptian government under the presidential leadership supervision, they forced that all the Egyptians, the 38 Egyptian, the 38 banks that are working in Egypt, the Egyptian market, they have to lend for small and medium enterprises. And I can ensure to you and our audience that there is an SMEs department in each bank from the 38 banks that are working in the Egyptian market. And everyone, they have a target that mainly predefined or determined by the central bank to lend SMEs. And they are working on it. And they are running.
Yes.
There's a great race, by the way. It's a target.
Yes.
you know? There's a great race to achieve this percentage. And honestly, the central bank, they give incentives, a lot of incentive and facilities for the banks that they reach for this, for the targeted percentage to achieve it. They waived from the CBE reserve, which is positively reflect on the bank cost of fund, and they are doing a lot of subsidies for that. All those factors, which it just kind of how the all sectors in Egypt are working or integrating together to achieve the big goal, which is to focus on SMEs and to focus on how to finance. And I believe if we reach it to the most important things, which is the microfinance, to reach at the rural areas, the lady which is working on small and tiny things to finance her project, this kind of the women empowerment, by the way,
definitely.
we will reach to a huge, this positively will help us to achieve the most strategic goal, to achieve a great GDP growth, actually, which will reach sooner, inshallah, to, if God will, to 5 to 6%.
Okay. Well, we are running out of time, but a quick question. Those $100 billion, how soon? Because you said we're in a race and we're used to, especially during President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi's presidency, we used to everything being done so quick and so fast. Reaching this $100 billion worth of exports, how soon can we achieve that?
I believe when you are saying billions, it's a great number. I know that. As I said at the beginning of our episode today, that there is a plan over the next 3 to 4 years to achieve this number, and I believe if all sectors work it together, I believe you can achieve it before this time.
Yes. Well, on this very hopeful note, ladies and gentlemen, we are definitely going in the right direction economically, and the $100 billion exports goal is a big goal, but as it is themed, it is a dream that is possible. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this edition of the Daily Debate. But before we go, I'd like to thank my very distinguished guest, Dr. Mohamed Rushdy, the lecturer at Cairo University and the economic and banking expert. Dr. Rushdy, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, and thanks for our audience.
Always a pleasure, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please stay tuned for more coming up on Nile International. I'm Hani Saif. Thank you for joining us.